So the day's January 8th. 1 p.m., we're all gathered in the science building making name tags. They were supposed to have two things on them, our name and a question we had about chemistry. Me, not because I'm a pyromaniac or anything, just because I'm a curious guy sometimes, put how do bombs work down on my paper. But here is that question, still unanswered. So I decided to take it into my own hands.
So, for my application project, I decided to make the easiest and safest type of bomb I knew about. That being 9th century gunpowder, which is a mix of primarily 3 different molecules at about 75% potassium nitrate, 15% carbon, and 10% sulfur. The only question is, how would I get my hands on these materials? Which led me into my first step. I took off into the woods along with my roommates in search of some local logs I could steal for making into carbon. In particular, we're looking for softwood, or the wood off a particular set of trees that would make us the safest yet most explosive gunpowder when made into carbon. In order to find these particular trees, me and my roommates scoured the Cedar City mountains for a full 20 minutes before deciding we had done a good day's work.
Okay, what we're doing is we're down here in the Cedar City mountains looking for a few different types of trees, that being the aspen, the red eastern something or another, the squiggly boys, and the one with weird white things on their leaves. We found a few of the sticks that we need for them, and now we're going to transport them back home in this very handy crate.
After finding the exact sticks we needed, we very shortly celebrated our victory.
Everybody say pure carbon. Pure carbon.
To finish up the night, we also ran to Home Depot to acquire an empty paint can to store the wood while it was burning, 2 Home Depot buckets to hold water for safety, and to the DI to grab both tongs and oven mitts for handling the paint can after it was in the fire. Chances are, you're now confused where an empty paint can adds into the equation of making carbon. Well, first you must understand pyrolysis. Pyrolysis is the process in which wood is essentially cooked in a low oxygen environment in order to turn the wood into a pure form of carbon. While the wood burns, complex molecules are broken down into gaseous forms such as hydrogen gas, carbon monoxide, methane, and large amounts of carbon dioxide. Yet, in a low oxygen environment, the carbon is unable to react with the oxygen, and it becomes a leftover residue, giving us a large amount of the purest carbon a college student on a budget could make. The paint can is used to create a low oxygen environment by sealing the wood inside and popping a small hole in the top, allowing the volatile gases that we hate to escape while that nasty oxygen stays far away from my carbon due to all the bad gases spewing out. It also has a cool side effect where, due to all the gases escaping so quickly and the gases being flammable, while undergoing pyrolysis, this can makes a whizzing noise as it appears to be shooting flames. As our wood was cooking up, we took a few moments to relax before plugging the hole of the paint can after it had stopped spewing flames. The wood was then allowed to cool for 24 hours before being crushed in a mortar and pestle to prepare it for the final mixture.
On the count of 3, everybody say pure carbon. 1, 2, 3, pure carbon!
At this point, the carbon was finished, leaving only the sulfur and potassium nitrate up for grabs. However, it was around 2 weeks out from the due date where I began to hear concerns from many adults upon learning about my project, with many fearing that I may have a run-in with many anarchists' least favorite governmental statute, the law. So, in order to make sure I was allowed to do what I wanted as a free American boy curious about explosive material, I contacted the city police, the chief of SUU police, and spoke to both Professor Pullen and the chemistry department head about my project. From the university, I seemed to have no issue as long as I did a safer and smaller test in the lab. And from the cops, they only seemed concerned if I had around 500 pounds of gunpowder, which was far off the mark from how much I was planning on making. So, eager to get my project moving, I was approved to borrow some sulfur and potassium nitrate from the university while I awaited my Amazon order of the stuff to arrive.
A few different mixing tools here, all very scientific. First off, mortar and pestle, very useful for mixing things. Then we got a little strategy here that I'm going to apply. We're going to tape this and do a shake, and it's very scientific. And that's how we're going to mix these substances over here. We got our sulfur, our potassium nitrate, and our charcoal or carbon. So,
unfortunately, an important lesson to learn in life is that sometimes you may make your gunpowder perfectly, but the god of science dislikes you, so stuff doesn't work out. And such is what happened on my first try. As I attempted to ignite the sad powder, it simply smoked, depressingly, rather than explode in a flash of light. So after contemplating my personal issues, I determined that I had either messed up on the 75-15-10 ratio measurements, I had not crushed the ingredients well enough causing the reaction to lessen, or I hadn't applied enough heat. So I went home for the day saddened but with all my fingers intact and thought about my actions. It was at this point that my project suffered another large hit. Although my sulfur had arrived at my doorstep, Amazon had canceled my order of potassium nitrate, and, to my knowledge, put me on a watch list. You see, potassium nitrate is primarily used for two things in the modern age: agriculture and explosive material. For agriculture, it can be used to remove tree stumps and can be bought in large quantities at high concentrations in tree stump remover. Henceforth, that's what I purchased. However, I believe that someone at Amazon noticed a college student was buying 5 pounds of tree stump remover, or essentially pure potassium nitrate, and wondered if I was removing stumps commonly found in my dorm at Founders Hall, or making explosives, and out of concern canceled my order. Moreover, they canceled my order not once, but twice, with 2 different brands of tree stump remover, forcing me and my roommates to haul down to St. George Tractor Supply Co. to buy Gordon's Stump Remover, which contains 99% potassium nitrate.
Okay, so here we are in the lab, getting ready for the successful test. First step, crush the potassium nitrate, 4.85 grams. Step 2, measure out carbon, 0.97 grams. 3, crush and measure sulfur, 0.65 grams with Kelvin. Step 4, strain only the finest bits of gunpowder onto a little plate, this time with Kelvin again. Number 4, gunpowder batch. Step 3, or trial 3, was a success, so we're hoping for a gold. In 3, 2, 1. Hey! Hey! Check that out! Success!
So, for a brief synopsis of what's happening here, I just tested the potassium nitrate the university gave me again. This attempt taking time to make sure the ratio was correct, the ingredients were crushed, and now with a butane torch. As you saw, it successfully ignited and burned up relatively quickly.
So for batch 5, we're switching up the potassium nitrate from the one that the university gave me to the stump remover that I bought at Tractor Supply Co. in St. George. We're gonna see if it works. Number 5, with batches 3 and 4 being successful, this time with a tree stump remover. We're going to hope that the potassium nitrate is pure enough to make it explode. Maybe. I'm seeing some sparks. Smoking quite a lot. I feel like it's sparking. I feel like it's trying to explode. Extreme heat for prolonged times worked. So, what I'm going to try is just raw dogging the hell out of this. And hopefully, it eventually catches fire. I don't remember what attempt this is, you? No. Give me a second. No. Come on, baby. Woo! Yo, look at that one! Oh, that's popping! Holy shit! Oh, I said it for video, huh? Yeah. Yo, that's so cool. That's going, man. Look at that! Oh. Damn it! Again! Oh, that's so cool. Really, you're doing something there. Yeah. Not even porcelain can withstand my science.
So here we are. That video was taken on April 11th at 11 a.m. Now I can successfully produce gunpowder single-handedly. I also still possess 2 pounds of potassium nitrate, 5 pounds of sulfur, and more carbon than a man knows what to do with. I wonder what I'll end up doing with all those ingredients on Tuesday, April 15th at Thunderbird Gardens Trailhead at 4 p.m. It's anyone's guess, really.
So that just about wraps this project up. All my citations and more nerdy stuff will be found on the Google document attached to this project wherever I decide to post this. Before the end of the video, I want to thank my roommates for helping me gather materials, Aiden and Calvin for helping me with explosion testing, my neighbors in 308 and 306 for letting me borrow both a strainer and mortar and pestle, law enforcement for letting me do what I want, both the head of the chemistry department and Professor Cullen for letting me explode stuff in their lab, and Amazon. I want to thank Amazon for nothing. They've been nothing but an inconvenience. Thank you for watching. I hope you had fun. I know I did. This lab coat smells like gunpowder, so I'm going to go now.
science rules.